In research, loneliness is referred to as perceived social isolation, or PSI. Remember that term because we'll be using it a lot. Because more older adults are physically isolated, risk of PSI is obvious and interventions have already been created. There is a robust linear association between PSI and social media use. PSI as a result of social media use isn't as obvious and is disguised through an online persona and aesthetic fantasy. We know that the generation growing up will be negatively impacted by social media, but we haven't acknowledged just how big of a problem that's going to be. We estimate from social media use, as many as 14 million young adults are experiencing PSI, and that number will grow. How many of you have been on social media in the past 12 hours and saw something that changed your mood? For a lot of people, remember 14 million young adults, their mood worsens, and that's an everyday experience.
Now that you understand the severity of the situation, here's our plan. Big picture, we'd like to create peer support groups that give young adults the necessity of experiencing relationships technology-free. We wanted to test whether young adults would be willing to explore how their social media usage is impacting their PSI. And to do that, we recruited a small group of students who went with us on a social outing where the use of technology was prohibited. At that outing, or after that outing, they reported to us a change in their PSI and also an increase in their desire for more peers in their social networks. They lingered at the outing for longer than the time required, showing the importance of human connection. Or that they just liked hanging out with Lexi and I. Our intervention would really leverage off of what we know about other peer groups that are successful. We would focus on 3 primary areas. Social outings, technology-free, similar to the one that we conducted. Discussions and exercises to raise awareness about how social media impacts PSI. And steps so that participants could establish their own self-regulated goals on social media use. Silver School has a lot of talented MSW students that we think can serve as facilitators of a pilot program and that they could train facilitators on other campuses. Once the intervention is proven, we would anticipate that we can attract other participants using social media and that all groups would be peer-led on and off campuses. We can take a couple of questions if there are any.
Thank you. Do the judges have any questions?
Are there characteristics that predict the susceptibility to PSI?
There's some research that indicates a couple of unique things. One is that there is a protective factor that appears to be in the relationship status of people who have high social media usage. Marriage tends to be a protective factor, and being single tends to have somebody has higher risk of PSI. And then the other one,
so the other one has to do with going back to vulnerable population. So if you're earning $30,000 or less per year, that's a risk factor versus people are earning $75,000 more.
And that's household income, not individual income.
Thank you for your presentation. The 2 risk factors that you just mentioned are generally risk factors that are associated with adults. What are some risk factors that we can put together with youth?
Well, that particular study actually was based on individuals 19 to 32. So it was some, kind of getting into the adult age group, but it was also young adults, not just, middle age or older adults. So that was the risk factors and the protective factors found in that particular research study. Which, by the way, was representative of about 96% of the population. So it was a pretty representative study.
30 seconds, Anna.
I love this because I've been to a couple of these competitions outside of the School of Social Work, engineering and tech, and everyone presents a tech solution. And you really bring it back to a sense of belonging and that fundamental need for face-to-face human interaction. And it's such a social work perspective, I love it. I do have a question that not all humans like each other. And so how do you pair or how do you create these groups of peers to where where there's so many biases, there are so many, things that could disrupt the quality of the connection, of the relationship.
I think in the pilot program, that is something we want to explore. The one thing in our little tests that we did with the students is that nobody knew each other going in. So we had no bias on who would show up, what the personalities would be like. And we had people who were in very different study fields, from different schools, different backgrounds. And, it seemed to work for that small setting. I think that's something we really would have to work out though as we continue to develop an intervention.
Thank you.